My name is Annalisa Perez and I play the flute. I have been in band since 4th grade. Band has not only taught me hard work, like coming after school to perfect our songs, perseverance, never giving up even when the music looks impossible, professionalism, being a role model even when no one is watching, but it's given me a second family. Throughout these 5 years, I've met so many amazing people who not only share the same passion as me, but the same struggles. We pick each other up, help each other out, and strive together. Because of this strength, we've been able to add 15 clarinets, 15 flutes, 8 trombones, 8 trumpets, 4 saxophones, 4 guitars, 4 violas, 4 guitarons, 6 violins, and 1 tuba to this amazing family.
Also with us tonight we have Miss Liliana and Jasmine Solorio, who are excellent flute and clarinet players. All right, guys, are we ready? Un, dos, tres,
If you'd like to hear the whole thing, please check the district website for our Christmas concert that will be the 3rd week of December.
For students is that the way that the grant operates is that when a CTA member receives the grant dollars, that money is actually managed by the local association, SMBSD. And when you're paying for teachers to do stuff, or you're sending kids on trips, things like that, well, that money just gets eaten up. But when you buy things, somebody has to own things. And so right now, SMBSD owns all these instruments, and we would like to do every single one of them at the San Bernardino School District.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Item D, calendar of up and coming meetings and activities. Thanksgiving holiday, November 19th and 23rd, 2018, school closed. Thanksgiving holiday, November 22nd and 23rd, regular board meeting Wednesday, December 12th, 2018, 6 p.m. Item C, open session public comment. This section of the agenda is intended for members of the public to address the board on items involving the school district. Comment shall be limited to 3 minutes each person and 15 minutes each topic. In answer to specific questions listed, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. To address the board, you are asked to fill out a request to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Abedikian.
Or provided to the superintendent prior to this part of the agenda.
Have a good night. Have a good tour, everybody.
First up, Mr. Doug Dolce.
Good evening, Lord. Last time I came to the pack house and I just cleared the house out and started to get everybody off. Again, I'm here for Representative and our students. I just sent off to the board members, I'm not sure if you have your computers out, but I just sent a little video and a picture that we did with the drone. Mr. Garza ran his drone up over so you can get a visual of the condition of the field right now. But from my last email to everybody a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, to tell them, a picture doesn't do it this time. You actually, I would love to have you come out and take a walk around. It's going to do more than my words can do. So I was hoping to get a few more parents. We had, everybody has different obligations, but we do have one of our other parents who's going to come speak that's had a son and her daughter Paige is in my class right now with one of our students, and she'd like to share some stuff. But I would just like to ask you to come out and please take a look, walk around with us, because even the picture I sent to your emails, you'll see some stuff, but it's not going to do justice to what it is that you walk that field. Mr. Lara has done it with me twice, and we're 2 years out from that, so when you look at the drone photo, it won't look like a field. So I appreciate your time, and hopefully Sharice she'll come on up and just give you a little bit more information from the parents' perspective. So thank you all.
Sharice Eccles?
Hi, my name is Sharice Eccles. I'm the parent of Paige Kopp. This is her second year at Fessler. My son also went to Fessler. The field has progressively gotten worse since my son's been there. Last year, she hurt her ankle running laps for PE by falling in a gopher hole. I'm assuming it was a gopher hole. I wasn't there. But it's not safe for the kids. And as I'm reading your core values, it says the greatest learning occurs in a safe environment, but that safe environment at Fessler in the field is not being met. Thank you.
Item D, approval of agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Oliver seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that too.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Oliver seconds. Roll call?
Ms. Cordero? Aye. Ms. Oliver?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Torres?
Aye.
Mr. Lara?
Aye. Action item 110. Select date for annual governing board organizational meeting.
Thank you. This item identifies the designation of the date of our annual reorganization. We're proposing that reorganization meeting be held in conjunction with our December 12th meeting. It has been past practice for that organizational meeting to re-identify officers for the next year and establish the calendar for the 2019 calendar.
Would that be then at like at 5 or something like that beforehand?
We'll do it we'll just do it at the initial start time of the meeting.
Okay.
Motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education approve December 12th and at 5:30 as the day and time for the annual organizational meeting.
I'll second that.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Oliver seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. At the select day and time of December 12th, 6 p.m. for its annual organizational meeting as presented in item 110 dated November 14th, 2018. Item 11, memorandum of understanding Santa Maria Elementary CF President's release of time.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to introduce Jose Segura to present the content of this item, but really it's a presentation for consideration of an MOU in recognition of a grant that Mr. Segura submitted to NEA and was awarded to expand the release time of the president from the contractual 50% that we currently have. Our collective bargaining agreement authorizes 50% release. The grant program allows for additional release time because they submitted the grant and was approved by NEA. This process is, normally we would bring a grant prior to its approval. If there's a fact, in the past we had an agreement with Cal Poly or National Science Foundation, we bring that to the board ahead of time. But because the grant was submitted ahead of this process, I got a copy of the MOU that is not part of the item, because Jose and I met last week and worked out the details on the full, pass that around for your consideration. And then I'm going to ask Jose to get up and just provide an overview of the goals and objectives and outcomes that are anticipated out of the grant program itself. So, and Jose had submitted an authorization to speak, but I had already planned on making it part of the item, so. There you go.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ontiveros. As Mr. Ontiveros stated, you have in front of you the actual MOU that's been drafted. As he stated, SMEA's submitted an application for a grant to the National Education Association in late winter of last year. NEA hands out 2 grants per region. We're part of the whole Western States region. And we were very surprised when we were selected by the committee to receive grants to move from a partial release president to full-time release president. So what does the grant provide? Well, the grant really just provides the dollars. NEA has an interest in local associations becoming more active, for members becoming more involved, and these grant programs are a way of doing that. The grant is limited to 3 years. This is the first year of a 3-year grant. I brought the idea to the district in the spring of last year after the grant had been accepted, and we kind of started the ball from that point. We had a conversation about what the grant was and what it did, and we went from that conversation to moving forward to flying my position so that it could be filled. 3rd grade, middle school, it went pretty fast. So that position was filled, and then we had to move into the next phase, which would be, well, what kind of agreement can we put together between the association and the district so that everybody's on board with the temporary change and release. As you know, we were in the middle of an impasse process at that time. We were already moving towards mediation, and so it didn't make any sense to introduce any new items at that time, because we kind of already had our basket full of negotiable items. And so we waited until that was complete before we started working on this MOU. Mr. Ontiveros was nice enough to kind of take this ball on, so that it was him and I negotiating this collectively. We negotiated this particular MOU in good faith, and the one that you have in front of you. We met over several months, several opportunities to kind of revise the MOU language, also opportunities for the district to come back with their questions and concerns, and we can kind of figure out how do we address those questions and concerns in the context of the MOU. As far as some of the goals and objectives of the grant, really there's 2 goals within the grant. One is to increase and improve member engagement, and the other is to improve community engagement. Those are kind of vague. So member engagement really has to do with, as an association, how are we reaching out to our teachers? And not just when it comes to negotiating contracts and providing support for grievances, but generally speaking, how are we doing as an association when it comes to reaching out to our members? Are we providing them with other opportunities, not only to be engaged in their local association, but other opportunities for them to be to excel in the career that they chose? Also opportunities to get more involved in the association as a way of becoming more involved in their career path, whether it's committee work, participating in things like CNI or action teams, getting involved with local leadership, creating committees that are member-driven, really as an effort to bring more folks together. I sent a letter out to you, or actually through Mr. Ontiveros last week, that kind of outlined a few of the bigger projects that we're working on. Both of those are member engagement, whether it's revising and revamping CNI, action teams, and COT, so that it better reflects the environment in which we currently work. And then the second one was bringing personal development to our members. The district does a really good job of professional development, whether it's after-school coursework, it's weekend coursework, chances or opportunities over the winter breaks and summer breaks to go to multi-day events. But what folks are really asking for is personal development project or programs, because teaching is stressful. You know, modern public education is a stressful career. And in fact, and there's several research projects out there that are ranking teaching as one in the top 10 of stressful jobs outside of law enforcement. And there's a reason for that. And it's really nobody's fault, it just is a byproduct of modern public education. And so what can we do as an association to help reduce some of those stressors our members have, whether it's yoga classes or kayaking clubs or it's cooking groups or whatever it is that can help them to have an opportunity to reduce stress in their lives. So anyway, that's one of the big projects we just started, is putting together a catalog of personal development. We call it PD for me, personal development for members, so to reduce the stressors that are associated with working in public education today. So under community engagement, that one's a little trickier. We as an association have not done a good job of reaching out to the community. We do it pretty well at our sites. The district has their own ways of reaching out to the community, whether it's through committees or organizations. But as a group of teachers, how well do we do? We don't do very well. So that's another one of our priorities, is as a group of educators that covers every corner of this valley, that every kid basically who lives in Santa Maria Valley is going to come through one of our doors through 6 or 7 or 8 years or 9 years of their life. Now, how are we reaching out to the families that support them and that care for them outside of conferences and back to school nights and things like that? So we are getting ourselves involved in local community activist clubs and organizations and working to participate more in community events. So that's really kind of part of our community engagement project. All of that stuff takes time. And part of what this grant allows me as the president to do is to coordinate and to be an activist for and to be a support person for my members who are volunteering to do these things. So it's not just me running this whole thing, it's really me having the time to be the coordinator, the manager, and of a lot of these projects and ideas. Because I have a lot of folks in my association across all of our schools who are more than happy to step up and volunteer. They just need direction. They want to know what can they do to help. And so we're really hoping that through this good faith bargain MOU that Mr. Armstrong and I put together, that we can go ahead and we can get this approved by the board. I can take it to my rep council and approve it through them, so that we can look to see if full-time credit release is something that's beneficial to both the district and the association. And that was a lot.
Do your members know about this?
Yes, they do. They've been in this loop since the spring. And it's gone to my rep council, it's gone out to members, both directly and indirectly, as conversation starters, as well as updates.
Was that on your letter? I don't know if the pages were missing, but it wasn't complete. It was up to page 4. Was there more to the plan than just that? Because I was trying to get a sense of the description of the program, which is the PD that you had talked about, and then the actual essence of how the process was going to work. I looked at the information that was given to us in terms of the organization program grant, and how then that would stair step down to include the structure of how all of this was being funded. Because one of the things in your letter you said was you were going to describe, because that was probably one of our main questions, what this would benefit, this structure, this organization, this grant, what this would be actually, supporting the district with also. Would there be more of your time for more collaboration on LCAP, which is a community organization? There's questions that were asked by you in the letter that I thought maybe you would clarify, but I just wanted to know if there was something missed in the letter by it not having more pages or closure, I mean, it stopped with your 2 days of substituting, and then that was it.
Okay, so that's a great question, thank you for that. And, well, that was it. The letter was really meant to be read in conjunction with the actual grant documents themselves. And what I was really trying to provide a snapshot of was what types of things is the association with me as its president interested in doing that would really benefit members. Because in my heart and in my head, anything that benefits members benefits the district. And we kind of look through things through that lens. So, for example, being able to provide them with these personal development classes or workshops or clubs on a year-round basis, reducing stress of our members is going to reduce stress in the classroom, which is going to be beneficial to students. Same, I would say, with the revamping of the curriculum instruction format, action teams, and COT, that those are committees that are super important. And some of you who've been in the district, you know that it's not necessarily unique, but I believe that it's very special to our district that we have this type of direct member involvement in decisions that impact us every single day when we're in the classroom teaching. And so any opportunity we can have to be involved in creating these systems, it's going to benefit students, it's going to benefit our members, which in turn is going to benefit our district. So really, as far as that's kind of the lens I look at things through is what can I do for members that are going to help them just be better at what they do, because that's going to impact our schools, it's going to impact our students. So as far as the detailed step-by-step, that's more of our like internal function, right? Because these are events that are going to occur really outside of the district. Sure, CNI and that kind of thing is kind of an internal, but really it's run by members. Action teams are run by members,
Right.
and by extension the association. And so we really need to be mindful about, well, what's the impact of those things for both our members and the students that they teach, and how can we make that a more productive process and really align it with where we are currently. That language was really great years and years ago when it was first written, and I'm sure it fell right in line with how things were structured then. But in this new modern era of public education, it's just a little out of sync and needs to be revised in a way that makes sense. So that, you know, we are doing everything we can to improve student learning.
I'd like to share with you my feelings about this. I once taught in a school district where the president of the local union had full-time release. And it seemed like a wonderful opportunity for them to better understand what was going on in the classrooms and the schools. But actually, it didn't work out that way. And that's where my reservation and concern steps in. I'd like to know what you're going to do with the time that you have that's going to make it better for the teachers and better for the kids, because it was really interesting, Mr. Segura, that at the beginning of this, we saw lots of the president, and they came to school and they observed in classrooms, and as it went on, that became less and less, and there was more time spent on the business of their group. How can we as a board be sure that this time is going to be spent wisely to the benefit of children and teachers?
One of the presidents, it's unique within the structure of this organization, the school district, but it's not unique to any outside organization, right? So if you look at service clubs, the Elks, the Rotary Club, that kind of thing, they'll have a president, they'll have a main person. And they're elected by their general membership to provide certain services and have certain duties and responsibilities. And it's really the general membership who decides the value of the work that they do, right? So I may not agree with the leader of the Elks Club and the work that he does or she does, but really it's the members of the Elks who decide whether or not that's going to be their leader. And it's really no different for me. So what I would say to you, Mrs. Oliver, is that talk to my members, and they'll tell you that I'm very visible, I'm very accessible, I'm where I need to be when they need me to be there. I've made it my mission to be as open and transparent and also accessible as possible to members. That includes communication with members. And I really worked super hard over the last several years to make sure that my members know what's going on. And then when I fall short, figure out, well, what went wrong and how can I fix that? And I'm constantly in this kind of self-evaluative circle. I use my executive board as an opportunity to kind of bounce things back to me. What do they think? What are they hearing? What do they see? So that I get feedback from folks outside of me. My rep council, which has 2 to 4 members from every site across our district, who I meet with monthly, that's another opportunity for me to reflect back on how good of a job as an association are we doing collectively, and how good of a job am I doing individually as a president. So as a board, you may not see me, but as the members that I serve, they're definitely seeing me. I'm out there. In fact, I was just over at a site before I came to here because they have some ideas and they wanted to hear what I thought about those ideas. And so it's that kind of thing that I'm doing. Now that's on top of regular site visits that I'm doing. I'm going to increase those from once a year to twice a year, which, you know, for 40 sites showing up, for 20 sites showing up for lunch, that's 40 work days that I need to be able to do that in, right? I can only do one a day. Adding a couple of days of subbing on the list, so I can actually get into sites, get into classrooms, and be accessible not only to members there, but also administrators. And so it's this kind of thing that I've always done. Under the grant, I'll be able to do more of that because we are stepping up projects and making things a little bigger for our members so that they have greater access. And I'll go back to what I said before is everything that we can do for members to improve their working conditions and improve student learning conditions is going to be great for students, it's going to be great for our schools. And so I really believe that the work that I do is really about students and really about our schools, or I wouldn't be doing it.
I just was trying to clarify also, Jose, in the letter, it did talk about the 2 days of substituting. Is that the only contact you have then as a teacher in our district?
In
As a
classroom
working
students?
teacher, yeah,
Yes,
so it would just be by substitute.
yes.
Okay, so you're not on any of the committees or anything like that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I thought you meant just direct contact with students. I sit on multiple committees within the district, whether it's report card committee, the gate review committee. Of course, I participate in CNI. I'm actually in charge of the math action team, and so you know, there's LMC, benefits committee. So there are a lot of other committees and organizations that I'm actively involved in, and there's others that I try to participate in when you know, it's my schedule. And some of these are like the really evening type committees, whether it's dual language or it's LCAP committees, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that going on.
Okay, so then the 2 days of substituting would actually tie you to what teachers are doing in their
Yes, and in fact, to give you an example, I just did my first day last week. I was over at Taylor School, and I was assigned to a resource class. I'm not a resource teacher, so this was a really interesting opportunity for me to kind of see what a resource teacher does and what their day is like. Well, it was a minimum day because of conferences, so I was able to work through the sub-plans that were left for me. And there was a teacher on campus who fell ill and needed to leave, and so they tapped me to take over that 3rd grade class for the rest of the day. So it was awesome that not only did I get to sit and participate in this resource program and really do some instruction, which is great, but I also got to revisit 3rd grade, which is what I just came out of. And at the end of the day, SMEA is sponsoring a tree through the Altrusa Christmas tree program, and that site donated money, and they happened to be having a book fair, so I was able to interact with staff and administration, picking out items for the SMEA Altrusa tree, which is a Harry Potter theme. If you're a big Harry Potter fan, you know, buy your tickets for that. And it was really a great day, and I really felt like if I could have more days like this, it really kind of puts me in touch with stuff that I might not normally have access to, right? In my 3rd grade class at Miller, I really don't experience what an RSP experiences. And so it was really a neat opportunity for me to be able to kind of reach out a little bit and touch base with what folks are doing so that, you know, I know my job is different from the classroom teacher, but it's good to understand what everybody is doing. And I kind of hear this from members, right? So you got to kind of put it in the context of why sub? Well, because members will tell me, hey, well, my principal doesn't know what it's like to be in the classroom, or my administrator hasn't been in the classroom for X number of years, or, you know, people downtown don't know what I do because they're not in the classroom. To a certain extent, they're right. Those jobs don't require them to be in the classroom, but they still feel like there should be a connection. So this is an opportunity for me to make that connection and continue it, you know, throughout the cycle of this grant.
So you're already doing all of this?
Yeah.
Really?
In the spring of last year, during the normal transfer and reassignment season, my position was posted and flown and filled over at Miller, my 3rd grade job. And so I'm currently working on a full-time release. I submit a schedule to Mr. Ontiveros, so he has an idea of where I am and, what I'm up to. It's through a Google shared schedule, so it's easily accessible. And that way, if I'm gonna be out of town for the day, he knows it. If I'm gonna be over at a site, if I have a rep council meeting, if I have a school board meeting tonight, that's on the calendar. So we're already sharing that. And when I brought the idea of subbing, Dr. Gray was super nice about it. She took the cabinet, and the cabinet thought it was a good idea, and so it was really an easy thing to put in place, which is why I was able to start so quickly.
So then in the, because again, I'm trying to figure out exactly, because this is, the application piece, the organizational piece. So am I to understand then that there's a grant amount that you get as a president, and then there's an actual bank account that this fund goes into?
Mm-hmm.
And then that bank account then is used to pay the district back for your time, or?
Oh, so that's a great question.
I'm trying to get the
yeah.
physicalness of this whole thing. Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
And then, in the essence of all of that, this grant is for 3 years.
Yes.
And then am I to understand that at the end of the 3 years, whatever is in the bank account, whatever is left over from it is at the discretion of the president to spend? And then the amount for full-time release then is picked up by your SMEA members? And that their dues would most likely go up to cover that amount?
Well, all great questions. So let's start with the bank
And
account.
again, this was in the
Yeah.
actual application grant that I was trying to
Yeah.
understand, to see if in fact I was understanding how all of this monetarily works.
Yes.
Because eventually the money will go away. And
Yes.
so that was a piece that I wanted to make sure that we covered, because in our contract, it's a 50% position. And so, will that be something that will be held up for negotiations, in the future? That, okay, all of a sudden, there's not money for the president anymore. So now we're at a standstill. I'm just trying to make sure that as
Yes.
we move forward, that the money is actually looked at down the line, because again, this has to be a collaborative process for everyone, us, teachers, you, everyone. So I'm trying to make sure that everybody understands, including myself, as clear as mud for a little while here, that monetarily, that this is something that will be sustainable.
Yes. So let's go back to the account. The way NEA has chosen to design this is they asked us to create a separate account. And
Okay,
in that separate account, the contribution from the NEA will be deposited in there.
okay,
Even though the agreement is between SMEA and NEA, there's actually a contribution by the California Teachers Association also. So they have a kind of a dog in this fight also. They're contributing a small portion. That also goes into this new account. And then SMEA is responsible for contributing our portion to that account, because we still have a part to play. We have been paying a part over all these years, whether it's 50% release or 70% release. The district's nugget has always remained the same. What grows is how much SMEA contributes based on the president's release, 50%, 70%, and so on. That money sits in there and is allocated out as we receive building from the district. We pay out from there.
right,
At the end of the 3 years, if there is any residual monies left in that account, it is equally distributed back to all the contributors to that account. So NEA gets their portion back, whatever that is, CTA gets their portion back, and SMEA gets their portion back. It's all based on the percentage of what you've included into that account from the very beginning.
okay,
After the 3 years, the grant is over. Now, the grant required SMEA to project out 4 and 5 years. After 3 years, when NEA and CTA are no longer contributing, can the local association cover the expenses? And the answer to that question is yes. With some creative budgeting and some moving of funds, we were able to configure our budget so that it would be fiscally sound for us to continue contributing the entire additional cost, minus NEA and CTA's part, and continue the association full-time presidency. Now, that's all contingent on coming to another agreement. So once the MOU expires, the grant expires, the goal would be to evaluate how it's worked, if there was value in both the association side and the district side, and members for that matter. And then if it's determined that there is value in this full-time release, then we bring that to the table as a reopener, and we negotiate that with the district. What that looks like really kind of all depends on what everybody's take is on at that time, right? Whether there's a change up in contribution, whether there's maybe some of these items that were part of what was done during the grant actually becomes contract language. That's for kind of both parties to determine.
And the evaluation that you're talking about is by you and SMEA and CTA, or by district, or?
So at the end of the 3 years, it would be a conversation that we would have collectively, the district and the association. Is there value in maintaining a full-time president's release? There are evaluation processes that are incremental throughout the 3-year grant, and that includes CTA, NEA, our local CTA staff person, and local association members, who all annually will submit. I don't have the actual evaluation documentation, so I don't know what they look like. All I know is in the contract, it states all the different parties will be part of a regular ongoing evaluation process.
Okay.
So NEA wants to know too, is the association, is the president doing the things that they said they were going to do?
Right.
And if they are, great, well, what else can we add in the second and third year? And if not, well, what are the barriers to being successful, and how can NEA help that local president kind of remove those barriers so that they can be successful in achieving the goals and the objectives that they set forward for themselves? As far as the increase in dues,
Yeah.
that's on there because there's a potential that we may not be able to afford a full-time president's release. And so that's an internal conversation we would have to have as a local association. The president can't just impose increased dues on its members. That would have to be voted on by membership.
Right.
And if the members felt there was value in increasing the dues in order to maintain a full-time president's release, well, then that's great. But that's their decision to make at that time.
Okay. I wondered why they had put it in there, so I could understand that, especially it talks about if dues have not been increased in the last 10
Yeah,
years.
we've been pretty fortunate to maintain our dues and still be fiscally sound, over all these years. We have a pretty nice reserve of cash that we're able to use for emergencies and things like that. So we've been very fortunate that we've been, we're not frugal as a local. We spend a lot of money. We try to put all our dollars back into our members, but we kind of walk with a little bit of a surplus every year. And we inherited this from Don. When he was the treasurer for so many years for CTA, and Don Ward did a great job of making sure that we were sound, and he really instilled that into the rest of us, that that's a priority as an association. So we're very fortunate in that sense.
I think there's some assumptions in there about growing the number of teachers and stuff as well.
Well, yeah, and it may have been, yeah.
And that the growth in funding, those kinds of things that you pick up that spot.
I did want to add that this is all in the shadow of the recent Janus decision, which we saw coming. We saw it coming when Friedrichs was headed to the Supreme Court. We knew that if Friedrichs didn't go through, that there just would be the next round of these attacks on public sector unions. And so this grant is really an opportunity for me as the local president to better manage membership, which is not something we really had to work really hard on in the past. Maybe Vita can attest to this, that our members wanted to be members, and it was really, we didn't have to actively engage folks to be members. Well, Janice kind of took that away from us. Now we're fortunate to live in California, right? So we have like AB 119 and SB, was it 866? We have a few laws that our state has passed that have allowed us to really still have some local control over our association and to unburden districts with some of the responsibilities that they might have previously had. But it is time consuming, and it's important that we maintain our membership. We never want to get to a place where we have so many folks who fall away from membership and now that they're interested in negotiating independently with the district. Because I don't think the district's negotiating team wants to go to the table with 50 different people, 50 different times trying to negotiate individual contracts. So it's in everybody's best interest that we try and keep our association whole. I can tell you that as of right now, we have lost one member from Janus. Only one person has opted out of our local association. And we're just super blessed that, our members see value in what we do. So to me, that's a testament to the work that we do as a whole.
I have to say this, and I hope it's taken in the right way. My experience with this was not a positive experience. I think that it could be and should be, but I'm feeling as I sit here and listen to the discussion that perhaps we haven't really thought this through enough to know or, what you need to do, how we need to work with you to do it. And this is a great concern that I have, because what I saw before was something that really kind of brought chaos to the district. And I certainly don't want that to happen here. I don't think in the year that I taught in that district that I ever had any personal contact with the president of the organization. So that's my concern here. I agree that when someone takes on the job that you have taken on as president of SMEA, it's a tremendously time-consuming situation, and you need all the help that you can get to give you more time to work on this. I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not sure that we have all of the, that we smoothly know where we're going. Does that make sense at all? I'm feeling as though there are too many questions in my mind about this at this point. Once again, I want to say that I think the job that the president of the union has is a tremendous job, and I want them to have the time that they need to do the best job that they can. But I'm not sure that, I guess maybe what I would like to see right now is, okay, this is what I would do with that extra time that I had. And it's kind of vague, and I'm concerned about going into something that's kind of vague.
I really appreciate you being frank about your past experience, because, you know, for most of us, that's all we have to go on, right? You know, what have I experienced in the past, and how does that affect the decisions I make today going forward? And all I can say is that that's unfortunate that that's the experience you had, because that's not how it should have been. And I gotta tell you the truth, it doesn't matter how much release time a president has, whether it's 25% or it's 3 days, you know, a month, or it's 100% release. It's taking the time away from the classroom to do the kind of work that's needed in order to improve working and learning conditions for both students and staff, and to being supportive of the things that folks need. Sure, it's about defending the contract and that kind of stuff, but it's a lot of these other things too. In the past, over the 5 years of my presidency, I've had everywhere from 50% release to 70% release. During that time, nobody has questioned what I'm doing with my time. And when I say that, I don't mean that nobody cared. I mean, nobody said to me, you're not doing enough with the time that you have.
And I'm not insinuating.
No, and I know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that you are. What my point was is that I felt like I've always been a good custodian of the time, because I know that my members count on that. And ultimately, they're the ones who elected me to the position that I'm in now. And so I work for them. And as much as I do for district, the reality is I work for my members when it comes to the presidency. And I'm beholden to them and their needs. And over the last 5 years, I haven't had any complaints about what I'm doing or not doing during my release time. And in fact, I just have tried to do as much as I can, which kind of spills over to my personal and private life, which is fine, because I like the work that I do. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. With this additional amount of release, it's not about, for me anyway, it's not about doing more of the same. It's about being able to do more new.
And that's what I want to know is, what would that more be?
And it's going to build as it goes along. I provided a couple of examples of big projects that we're working on. Those are a couple of big things that we're going forward with, and those are very time-consuming projects, right? But there's always going to be something, just like there is for every principal or director or district level administrators, that they can tell you what they're doing today. They can probably tell you what they're doing tomorrow and next week, but they probably couldn't tell you what they're going to do 3 months from now, because the nature of the beast is constantly evolving, and there's always going to be something to do. And it's really not about whether or not there's enough to do. It's about picking and choosing the most important things to do. And that's really where I have been all these years. And even now, so far, we're midway through November, and I've been working full-time at least since August. I'm still picking and choosing the things that need to be done, delegating that as much as I can to folks who are willing to take on additional responsibilities, and then putting things, putting a pin in some things so that I get to them later. And so that part hasn't changed. It feels, it's more of the same, but it's also these really interesting, exciting new projects that we're putting forward.
And what happens when you're not the president of SMEA any longer and we have a different person? I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel as though we need more of a plan for this. We need to tighten it up a little bit. I guess my background in this is showing, but I think it's very important because you're a person that can do so much for the district and for the teachers of the district and for the students of the district. I just want to be sure that we have everything in place and that we don't leave it too broad so that when you're not here doing a wonderful job, that the person who comes in will be equally able to do that.
I understand that, and yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and there's not really much I can say that would
That's right.
alleviate that, because I can't predict what the future holds. All I can tell you is that it's really the members who are going, if they have a president who is not doing their job, then they get rid of them, and they have the right and the authority to do that. There's a reason why the law separates union work from the employer's work, and it's really so that there's not this overreach or extended oversight into unionism, that unions are allowed to work free and separate from their employer, so that they do the work that the members of whatever union is, whether it's policemen or firemen or teachers, so that the president can do the work of the membership. And the flip side of that is that they are beholden to the members for that work. And so I don't know that there's any length of explanation of duties or responsibilities that would really fit in with like the job description submittal kind of a thing, right? Because it's going to be based on the strengths and weaknesses of the individual president. My strengths may not be the strengths of the next man or woman who comes to do the work that I'm doing. They may move in a different direction, but it doesn't mean that they're not working to the benefit of the association, of its members, and the students and the working and learning conditions that we all, subject ourselves to every day. But I appreciate again your frankness on that.
I just, the piece or the part of this that sort of rankles with me is that, why is this coming to us now? If you're already doing it, it's like asking for permission after the fact. And you are still a district employee, why was this not handled before you even accepted the grant? Is that an unfair question, or?
I have been available to work on this MOU from the beginning. When I first brought the idea I first presented to the district the fact that we had won the grant. And at that point, we have it available to us. And then we have a conversation about whether or not we're going to go forward with it. And the district verbally agreed that we go forward with it. We were in the middle of an impasse process. I can tell you that's probably why we didn't actually start writing an MOU at that point. But we could have done it over the summer. That was available. We waited till the fall, till the fall school year started to really work on it in earnest, and that's.
Well, I get all of that. I guess, really my point is, before you even apply for the grant, I think about, when I was working as a teacher in whatever position I was in, if I were thinking about pursuing a grant that would change my teaching responsibility, would I not go to the district and at least say, I'm looking at this opportunity, do you think there will be a problem with it? That's my point.
And I totally understand that. And all I can say is I guess I wasn't thinking along those lines. I didn't really think we would get it. I really was putting it out there to see, how competitive we were as a local association. So I was just surprised as anybody when we were granted the monies. And as soon as I had a chance to turn it around and take it over to the district and have a conversation about it, I did. But you're right. Looking back on it, maybe I should have done it a little bit differently, but I didn't. And I really don't have any grand explanation or reasoning for that. but I totally understand what you're saying.
One other question I have. If this were to happen, whether it be you or someone else who was president at the time, what do you think is the most important thing that this release time would allow you to do?
One of the areas that we struggled with the most as a local association is connecting with our community.
With what we live?
Our community. I have about a little over half of my members live in San Luis County. Only about 160, 65 of my members live in San Luis proper. In other words, are able to even vote in elections. Everybody else lives outside the area. So connecting my members to my community, the community that I grew up in, that's very difficult. And that's really something that I want to make a focus. And some of these other member engagement things, projects, these which are great, and I think they're going to be very beneficial to our members, but those are within my wheelhouse. Community engagement is something that I am looking to others on the outside of SMEA to help us with. Other activist organizations, community-based organizations, churches, service clubs, and things like that, because we really want to get ourselves out there as educators in the community, not just individual members of a school site, right? I want folks to see SMEA and know that person teaches in that district. That's a teacher that's taught my kids or my grandkids or my neighbor's kids. They may not know me from Miller, but they would see the SMEA shirt or meet me at an event and know that I teach somewhere in the district and that I'm a member of their community when it comes to education. And so that's a big thing that we really need to take these next couple of years and work really hard on. We've made small inroads towards that, but that's one of the pillars of the grant that we wrote is to increase our member engagement. It's just something we just really haven't been good at, and I think it's because we've never really had to. And we've kind of focused in-house and kind of forgetting about the community in which we live that goes beyond the walls of our schools. And so it's going to be kind of an uphill battle because, like I said, we have a lot of folks who don't even live in this community, but yet they work here. They're engaged with these students every single day. They care for them. They love them. They educate them. How can we integrate ourselves as a community of teachers into the community at large?
So I appreciate the comments of the example, because Jose and I have been having this conversation for the last 2 months around a lot of these same issues. And so as a board, would it be helpful for you to get, if this were to be approved, to get some progress monitoring updates, much like we did with the LCAP? And Jose and I could work, we meet weekly, we could work on a regular reporting back to the board of this is where we are on the issues. Even some of the surveys, right? You haven't had access to the surveys that you're going to be evaluated on by membership. Wouldn't necessarily be to report to the results, but to share the context of and the content of the survey itself. Just so there's a broader nature.
Yeah, and I don't know the form those surveys or those evaluations are going to be in. I don't know if they're going to be in a survey or how it's going to be a narrative. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to come
But
down.
just the content and the context of
Yeah.
that's to be done.
Yeah, but that's going to be more of an annual basis. I like the idea of regular updates, of providing essentially a state of our union, kind of a monthly update maybe that goes along through board packets, so that the board is aware of what's going on. You know, from our perspective, what are we doing? What are we up to? You know, what kind of projects and programs have we been able to put into play? When I say we, so, you know, it's me out there getting my folks involved and getting them to volunteer to do things and kind of managing and facilitating a lot of these. As the president of the local association, I'm technically also the CEO of the organization. It's in my bylaws. So I really kind of take that to heart that you know, my job is to lead, but it's also really to manage, and that's what consumes a lot of the time. So a regular update as part of a board packet, that sounds reasonable.
In your movement toward more community work and moving toward those kinds of professional development areas also, you would think that we're all on this parallel road together. So the communications would be really very helpful, because we don't want to overemphasize something where we're developing something and you are too, and now it's like, well, if SMEA's doing this, well, we need to have this. We need to have this kind of communication. The parallel road is for us to all work together and collaborate too, to make.
For Child Development Services, Mr. Moore, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Okay, this is an amendment to our agreement on our preschool funding. And currently, our agreement is that we will receive a little over $2 million from the state of California. It's upset by about $100,000, so that is very good. We go from $2,015,504 to $2,116,561. It still doesn't cover the whole expense of preschool. It does help in that we will not need to take as much out of the general fund as we believe we would. It's based on, we'll probably go from about $370,000 to $270,000 in the general fund. This is based on students attending and receiving $48 a day. But if you multiply that all the way out, $48 a day for all of our preschoolers would be $3.7 million. So the state only funds you about 60% on that daily rate. So they could, they could say it's 100 a day or 75 a day. It's going to max out at 2.1 million. But it's an extra 100,000. So this is a good one for us.
We don't want to turn down any money.
This money is up.
So I will move to adopt resolution 18-08, which authorizes the superintendent to approve the amended 2018-19 state preschool contract as presented in item 210, dated May 15th.
Second it.
Ms. Cordero moved, Ms. Ford second. Roll call?
Ms. Cordero? Aye. Ms. Oliver?
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye. That the Board of Education adopt resolution 1808, which is authorized by the superintendent, dated November 14th, 2018. Item 320, resolution number 1809, state building fund application development and availability of state matching funds. Mr. Reacher, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Lara. Good evening, board. In July, I brought similar resolutions to the board because in July, the state still had money. The resolution related to the acknowledgement of the availability of state matching funds said that they may or may not have funds available. We received yesterday an email from the Division of the State's Architect approving our plans for the Measure T School. Finally, they got it to us yesterday. They conveniently dated the letter the day of the approval, which is October the 25th. Takes a little while for those approvals to get documented in a letter and all the way down to the mailroom and to district offices, especially when they transmit it electronically. But it's still happening. I still have the letter. On September 11th, the State Allocation Board did meet and act to acknowledge that they do not have any funds remaining in their state bond fund any longer. So with the time that I had from when we completed our application for BSC, which was a couple weeks ago, knowing this, I went ahead and prepared this item for you tonight so that when we FedEx our application tomorrow morning, we have a resolution that says they don't have money. And I don't have to get a question back from an evaluator that says, hey, your resolution says we may or we may not have money, and we don't have money, so I need a new resolution. And now I don't have to wait for our board meeting in December to respond to that question. So I appreciate your time tonight. to consider this item so that I can have a package that's as complete as I can make it. We did have the job walk for that school today. The bid has been out on the streets since as soon as we could after we got our DSA approval and our scanned approved DSA plans. So we had 44 folks download those plans off of Planet Bids. We had 6 prime contractors attend the job walk today. Some from in town, some from out of town. So we will hope that we get most of those folks to respond with a bid. So we're making progress on that front and down the road, hoping to begin construction in January or early February of 2019. I did explain to Mr. Andreos that we are 50 days or so late. If we had gotten this application in between September the 1st and September the 10th, hopefully it could have gotten on the agenda, which was a date, I don't know when the agenda date was. But if we'd beaten that agenda date, we could have been in the running for those funds. And it's about $15 million. So we lost 8 or 9 weeks, somewhere between September the 10th and I want to say the first conversation I had about that property was in March of 2013. Somewhere in those 5 years, if I could go back in time and get 50 more days, I'd make different decisions, but at the time, right, all based on risk and the politics involved in it, we did the best we could. Came up 50 days short, we'll be near the top of the list, right? The good news is, and again, I appreciate the time to talk about this item, the good news is, I did get our project manager at OPSC to tell me that the items that are on the workload list, you remember I talked about that a little bit.
Right.
There are 3 lists at OPSC. There's one for folks that are approved, but they don't have money. There's one for folks that are on their workload list, and now after September 11th, there is an acknowledged list. We've received your application and we're putting it in a pile with a date stamp. We have our Tommy Coons project, our Liberty project, and our Taylor project on the workload list. And when the state says they're out of funds, what Candace Lee told me was that means what's on the acknowledged, or I'm sorry, the approved but we don't have money list and the workload list are included in the determination of when they were out of funds. So in my mind, that tells me as they start to release money, which becomes more likely when Gavin Newsom takes over as governor, we could see some action on that application, potentially see some money coming for those projects.
So January, February, break ground.
That's my hope. That's my hope. The regulations that govern purchasing, and our board policy and administrative regulations pretty clear about awarding to the lowest responsive and responsible. So to comply with all of that, right, we do have to award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
Well, I get it, it's just you open it and you look at it and you, like
Yeah.
I said, when have you ever seen, I mean, it's, everybody's scratching their head.
What's amazing to me is we came here with a huge disparity, which is, investigating those bids, we learned that the low bidder prepared their bid based on their interpretation of a poorly worded addendum, right? And I'll own that that's what it was. And to have them come back, and the second lowest bidder came down about $25,000, and the low bidder came up, I want to say it was like 75, 80. It was a big amount. It was like 490. So it came up by a big chunk of change, and they landed within $4. It's just amazing.
No, it is.
It's just amazing. So there is, and again, the confidence that I get using a low bid process, as old fashioned as it is. And I heard about that again today at lunch, working with our architects prior to the job walk. It's old school to use low bid, but this is a demonstration of how you get there and why you do it. I mean, the true cost plus an acceptable margin for two folks is within $4. So there's a real number out there, and for me, the best way to get to the real number is a low bid process.
Have we done work with the, capped electricity board?
Yes, we can. How many years?
No, I mean,
I mean, it's fair.
There, do I have a motion?
Wow.
I'll move to approve the award of a contract for bid number 5139, fire alarm and intercom system replacement at Rice Elementary, rebid to Taft Electric Company in the amount of $568,516 upon presentation of bonds as presented above in item 321 dated November 14th, 2018.
And I'll second that.
Ms. Cordero moved, Ms. Oliver seconded, all in favor? Motion carries. That the Board of Education approve award of the contract for bid 5139 fire alarm and intercom system dated November 14th, 2018. Item 322, award of RFP number 5129 LA Medical Cal Bill Adoption Program. Mr. Oh,
I'm actually presenting for business right now. Ms. Judge McKnight couldn't be here tonight. So we are bringing forth an RFP for our next LEA Medi-Cal provider. So LEA Medi-Cal billing is money that comes from the federal government through the state of California to school districts. And the goal is to allow LEAs to become Medi-Cal providers and build the Medi-Cal program for certain health-related assessments and services provided by qualified health service professionals to Medi-Cal eligible students. So we've been doing this for a number of years. These are federal funds allocated through the California Department of Healthcare Services to school districts to provide and bill for medical services for Medi-Cal eligible students, and the billing has been for students with disabilities. There will be a provision going forward where there will be a way for us to bill for some services for students who are not special ed students. Then the DHCS will reimburse the LEAs the federal share of the allowable rate for approved health-related services by qualified health service practitioners. So when we have licensed professionals, we're able to bill for reimbursement. Now, this started in 1993, so San Rita Bonita, we still have a healthy start. There's not too many in the state of California. In 1991, the state of California gave grants for 4 years for $125,000 a crack. So you had $500,000 over 4 years. And that's how we funded our Healthy Start. And it's in the back of Dallas over there. There's a trailer in the back. And then after that grant ran out, the state said, well, how are we going to fund Healthy Start, which links people to needed services? So they said, we will provide LEA Medi-Cal billing dollars to the Healthy Start Collaborative. So it's going to be based on services that you provide, but that money has to go to a health group that will decide the allocation of those funds. And that that's how LEA Medi-Cal has worked for a number of years, actually all the way up until 2015. It no longer is specifically to fund Healthy Start programs. There haven't been additional funding for Healthy Start for many years, but this is how those LEA Medi-Cal dollars were used. And then there are many, many services We only, bill for services for providers that we have ourselves. We don't bill for any service that we might contract for. So if we have an occupational therapy, physical therapy, we don't bill for something that we contract for. But we do bill for initial and annual speech assessments. These are for students who receive Medi-Cal services. We have a lot of students who qualify for Medi-Cal. Initial and annual psychological assessments, initial and annual health assessments, and then the related services for those students, dealing with speech, counseling, and nursing services when they're provided by a licensed professional. So like a speech teacher who would have only his or her credential and not be licensed, we don't bill for that person, but we would bill for a speech teacher who's licensed. And so any questions on that so far? So then we've had providers in the past. It's very technical. You're combining education law along with medical laws. It's very complex. So districts will have providers who will help them ascertain whether something is billable or not. And we are coming forth to have a provider who's going to provide this service. So thank you to Patricia McKnight, who's our person supervisor, Angela Goodman, who's our buyer, who helped us set up the process. So our technical specifications were prepared by district staff, and those calling for request for proposals was posted on Friday, advertised on April 14th. 2018, April 29, 2018, the solicitation process was performed in accordance with the requirements provided in the public contract code. We received 5 proposals. Leader Services, Paradigm Health, CompuGroup, CompuClaim, and Medi-Cal Billing Technologies. We received those 5. We had a group of 4 that reviewed these.
Mark, who did we have before?
We had Medi-Cal Billing
Okay.
Technologies, MBT. And we had an evaluation committee of 4 district staff members was formed to evaluate and score the 5 proposals. And then we had, I listed Paradigm's cost proposal because they're the one that the recommendation is going to come out that we, that's going through the process, they're the recommendation that we provide service with. But it's a little different from other types of RFPs where it's strictly the dollar amount. Like we do an air conditioning, it's just strictly the dollar amount. Here you're also looking for the service that they can provide. So we looked at the quality of their proposal, the qualifications, their relevant experience, and experience in this. We also got references from districts that they have been involved with. Their approach, their technical ability, do they have the people who can provide this service, and their cost proposal. And they all had different ways that they would bill us. Paradigm is the one who, at the highest points, ultimately. Their fee proposal are based on approved billed items, but they also have other items that they would bill for. But it would be no more than 12% of the gross amount up to $100,000, and no more than 10% of the gross amount over $100,000 caps out. We probably would be looking at $300,000 to $400,000 a year coming to us. We are not particularly aggressive billers, I would say. We kind of look at the law and the regulations and say, what could something be denied, as opposed to look at it and say, well, how could we get more approved? So a district our size, some other districts do bill more than we do, but we make conscious decisions not to. Like, for instance, you can bill for busing, okay, for kids to come and receive their Medi-Cal billing services. We kind of look at that. We're busing the kids to school. We're not busing them to get their Medi-Cal billing services. Quite likely that somewhere down the road that could be denied and overturned. But other districts do bill for that. That's just one example of how we are not particularly aggressive when we try to follow the law and the letter of the law. But we'd be looking at $300,000 to $400,000 would be coming to us. two of the firms, met the competitive range, and they were very close, so they came for a presentation here. That was Paradigm and Leader Services, so the one we had before didn't make it to the final cut of two. And they did a presentation, and the final score was Paradigm 100 and Leader Services 98 out of the 115. They were both very, very qualified and very impressive. So we're going to recommend that staff awards the contract for this RFP 5129 for LA Medical Billing Program to Paradigm Health Care upon presentation of signed agreement.
This is just sort of a related question. Who coordinates all of the Medi-Cal billing?
It will go to Rochelle Aziz, who is our program specialist for health. So she just took over that job. It's been in my department, and Dr. Zimmerman took it over, and now it'll be Rochelle, because most of these are related to the health services.
She a PE teacher?
She's actually our program specialist for health now.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
She was.
she was.
She
PE.
was, yeah. She's pretty much, that was really fun.
She was PE professor, and El Camino.
Okay.
Any questions on this RFP?
Make a motion that the Board of Education approve the award, the contract for RFP 5129, LA Medi-Cal billing option programs to Paradigm Healthcare Incorporated as presented above in item 322, November 14th, 2018.
I'll second that.
This board meeting, Ms. Oliver seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approve the award contract for RFP 5129 as presented above the matter 3.2 dated November 14th, 2018. Item 410, job description, principal director. Ms. Brady.
Yes, board, what you have in front of you is a brand new job description. We currently have 2 preschool TOSAs, teachers on special assignment. And the district met with SMEA, and looking at their responsibilities and what they were being asked to do, they really looked a lot more like a supervisor than they did a certificated teacher in that role. So we took a look at the preschool matrix, and we created this job description. Not only have our preschool classes increased, but we currently have the 2 TOSAs, which we will be moving into the preschool director position. So in order to move into that position, we had to create a job description. So what you have in front of you is a newly created job description that we currently have 2 individuals that will be moving into this position. But it will fall on the management salary schedule, which is the next item, but it's a management position at this time.
Co-directors?
What's that?
Co-directors.
Yes.
Can I actually read it. the description.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're a good descriptor. The only thing I was looking at, Dr. Grady, I was gonna just kind of talk to you earlier, and this is super, maybe it's probably picky on my part, but in the second paragraph under basic function, it says under the direction of the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And then there's already under supervision in the first part.
Okay, yeah.
My only thing was is kind of, as if you're establishing them as directors and kind of give them a managerial position and doing their thing, is maybe rather than under the direction of somebody else,
Yeah.
is subservient to that.
Yes.
Supervision was good, but maybe like in coordination with the director of curriculum, something like that, but just I don't know, it seemed kind of.
Would you be good if I took out that line under the direction of the Director of Curriculum Instruction and just started with the preschool director?
Sure.
Because we've already said
Yeah.
as supervision of?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good catch, John, thank you.
Otherwise, it's a super cool descriptor. Kind of like reading your stuff, Dr. Grady.
Right.
So much so that I would move that the Board of Education approve the job description of preschool director as presented in item 410.
I second.
Mr. Holland has moved with 4 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That the Board of Education approve the job description for school director presented in the 10 days, November 14th, 2018. 412, 411, excuse me, approval of revised management salary schedule for the 2018-19 and 2019-20. Ms. Grady.
Right, and with the creation of this new management position, we needed to add a line on the management salary schedule, which you can see on page 2, which says preschool director. And what we did is we took the line above it, which is a supervisor, and we took that same salary schedule, which is a 225-day work year, and we calculated it out to be 195 days, since our preschool director will only be 195 days, and based our numbers on that factor. So also what I want to share with you is, if you look on the very first page, we did bring forward in August the TOSA state preschool position salary schedule, so we could get our 2 individuals paid. At this time, we'd like to eliminate that, what we approved earlier, since we will no longer have individuals in that position. So we're just asking you to eliminate just the approval that we did on August 8th for those. That's part of the recommendation of this item.
They did get paid.
They did get paid.
So as soon
So
as we
this will
implement
this will
these
sub-
new this, we'll.
Okay.
And I do have, I sent an email out today that I'll be meeting with them prior to leaving on Friday to get a work year calendar and their salary schedule placement.
And can I ask who the 2 preschool TOSAs are?
Yes, Karen Dominguez and Raquel Valdez.
Okay. Just wondering if they were the same ones I got.
Yes, they are.
Well, I'll move that the Board of Education approve the revised management salary schedule for 2018-19 and 2019-20 as presented in item 411 dated November 14th, 2018.
Ms. Cordero moved, Mr. Holland second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries that the Board of Education approval of the revised management salary schedule for 2018-19, 2019-20 is presented in item 411 dated November 14th, 2018. Item 412, job description, food service and culinary supervisor. Ms. Grady.
Yes. We currently have a job description for a food service supervisor, and Jeannie's currently out there, and she's currently in this position right now. However, Harold decided that we needed a food service and culinary supervisor because the needs have changed with our food service department. So what we have in front of you is really a revised job description from our food service supervisor to really reflect where we need to go in the food service department at this time. Jeannie will continue in this position. She'll now be called the food service and culinary supervisor, and also we'll be adding a second one since the demands have really grown. And Harold is here tonight to answer any questions you may have on this job description or the need for the growth in that department.
You didn't write this one?
He wrote it. Harold gets credit for this one. And Helene did all the work. Yes, Harold wrote this one.
And I'd also like to add, because I'd like to share this tidbit, that the Food Nutrition Service Department served 4.3 million meals last year. Wow. Just to support the notion of volume that goes to 4.3 million.
It kind of concerns me that I wasn't invited to any of them.
Let's note that as
Every day.
You're always welcome. You're always a sample. The job description that I really like best is the one that says, develop and implement recipes and menu components that align with federal meal program requirements and district wellness standards, meet budgetary and quantity production. Does that mean that you are a chef as well?
Well, that's what we're kind of looking for somebody when we hire them, to make sure they have those kind of skills, that they can go in and actually teach our staff. One of the things we need to continue to evolve, and to be able to do that, we need to make sure that the person is able to teach those techniques, so we continue to improve our food quality.
Are you offering, didn't you used to offer those chef classes or those?
Yeah, when the Orphan Foundation was
Yeah.
here, remember we had the culinary
Right.
skills? So basically, all of our cafeteria managers have those skills, but we want to continue that with, because we have a lot of turnover in
Right.
the food service department, and we want to continue that with the people that come on board with us.
Okay, makes sense.
I have a box, a huge box, and every time I see a recipe I like, I cut it out and put it in that box, and I'm gonna bring it to you someday.
Is it for cookies?
Okay, I have one other question, and I was gonna ask this to Dr. Green, because I thought she would. So one of the things that I hear back from teachers, we all probably hear back from teachers a lot, is food going into the trash when it's all done, said and done. So I was looking at perform market research, conduct recipes, product demonstration, and tasting with students and district staff to acceptable menu item, and feedback provided as necessary. That and identifying opportunities for overseeing training food services staff as it relates to food production, operation, equipment, technology, those kinds of things. Are those kind of like saying, trying to get kids, get foods that they're gonna eat more of and not waste
Well,
as much
we
of?
can both address that. Number one, the first thing is, we are required to offer certain foods every day. We don't have any choice on that. We have to meet certain requirements, otherwise we can't get reimbursement. But the second part of that, we've already actually started at battles, and then we're starting to some other schools. We've talked to our managers today, we actually talked about the wellness council today. We have developed a plan with the health department to actually, we have a list of foods that we can actually take from, if the kids don't eat it, packaged foods or peeled foods that are not peeled. They can put it in a basket. We actually have a setup, we can take it to the homeless shelter or the food bank or the Salvation Army. So we're moving in that direction currently.
It's not like we don't want the children to eat.
No.
They're required to have them,
No,
they have
that's-
to take a half a cup, they have
No.
to take beans and peas, you have to offer. But there's a lot of things that they're just not, like the fruit cups, they'd rather have the fresh fruit.
Well,
If
even
we
but
serve
even they're putting a whole apple, they're dropping almost a whole apple in the
Yeah.
trash, right? So.
Yeah,
So,
well,
but no, that was gonna be my question, was just about, as part of the descriptor, that being somewhat, is that part of that? Is that how you're wording, is that?
I think it would fall in the category, correct. I think
Yeah,
it would fall
rather
in.
than just saying monitor food waste or something like that.
right.
That's your way of saying that. That's what I was gonna ask.
John, we do work to find foods and offerings that both meet the nutritional requirements and students choose to eat.
Sure.
And maybe eat all of them, but, and this will certainly help, with bringing in this additional set of eyes to help share in the load. The other thing that I always try and point out to folks when that concern is raised, because it comes up frequently. And I am really grateful, I talked to Harold when I first saw the thing about parsing out some of those foods that have deals and are in wrappers. That's been something we've been looking forward to for a while, to find an avenue for that. So I'm really glad that the county health department has provided an approval to allow us to pilot that and potentially grow it. But one of the things I always like to point out when people ask that question is that the requirements that we try and meet as far as what we offer to our students are developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, right? Not the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture is concerned with prices more than anything else, which means they need to move their items from where they are to someone who will pay money for them.
To large institutional buyers?
Correct. And if you move a lot to them, then that means there's less for other people to buy, which generally is more favorable to prices. And so, knowing that's kind of their motive, there's something in the back of my mind that tells me that some of those nutritional requirements might be beyond what's really necessary for students that are the size and shape of our students. but I haven't actually put my finger on that evidence.
Yeah, I
It's
get
in the
you.
back of my mind that that's gotta be a part of it.
You look calorically at what's on the plate for a kid that's in third grade is definitely good.
Right, kindergarten gets the same as a sixth grader.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
They have to have a judge. You guys have told me that before, I just wanted to clarify that wording and see, but that's great, I'm really glad to hear about that, thank you.
We also have another program that we're doing at the junior highs right now. It's a share basket for any kids that have, they don't want to eat it, like, okay, I don't want this juice, or I don't want something. There's a kid that's still hungry, for whatever reason, they just
Right.
have a bottomless leg or whatever, they go and they can help themselves to that. But it has to be, again, packaged item or like a
Right.
fruit with a peel on it.
Right,
Where we can't put anything that's like been cut up or
sure.
partially eaten, they can't put that in there.
well, that's what we used to do in the olden days.
Right.
We used to have a share box. Yeah. But I do know that my sixth grade grandson and my third grade granddaughter, they love the pozole.
Oh, yeah.
They don't take their lunch on those days.
That was one of the recipes that I worked with the staff
Oh,
on getting done.
it's really good according to
Right. Right, I don't like the chips so much, I'd rather do a tortilla, but it's just such a better serve, and the kids like it.
Right, right. There's a couple of other things that he doesn't take his lunch for, so, which is really telling.
Which is a compliment.
Very
for
good,
sure, right?
yeah.
I want to eat lunch, I want to eat it.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of,
he actually
It's not
lets
uncomfortable.
us know.
there's a lot of
Exactly.
more grain
Yeah.
items the kids won't eat, like mac and cheese, we had a meeting today about it. Mac and cheese, they just don't like that brown macaroni in there for whatever reason, you know, so we're looking at getting some other kind of a lunch item going, you know, maybe January, February, start something else. But, you know, we listen to what the kids are saying. Harold and I go to the schools as much as we can go to evaluate things and talk to the students. Right.
Thank you.
Have you ever considered doing a district cookbook? Who's that?
Yeah, I always wanted to do one with the managers, just their recipes that they've developed. We've had recipe competitions, like our salsa was developed from one of the managers at Alvin School, and it's a really good salsa recipe, so if you ever get a chance to try that. Barbecue sauce is homemade. We make our own ranch from scratch. We don't
I knew
use
that.
MSG.
I do know that.
Maggie loves the ranch dressing.
If you bought it and sold it, you could solve all the budget
But
problems.
it's really simple ingredients. There's none of those other.
Well, I think it'd be a great fundraiser for a school to do something like that.
Rice's Ranch dressing.
Then,
Bada bing, bada boom.
thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
I know.
So a motion,
Make a recommendation that the Board of Education approve the job description, food service culinary supervisor as presented in 410 on today's date.
I'll second that.
Second.
oh,
That's pretty good.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Oliver, Ms. Cordero second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries that the Board of Education approve the job description, food service culinary supervisor presented in item 412, dated November 14th, 2018.
Now you have to get a new name badge, and with all that on there.
By the way, we're having turkey gravy, homemade turkey
Yes.
gravy on December 7th. Right,
Oh my God.
It's a Friday. So you're all welcome
December
to
December 12th.
partake. Turkey gravy, homemade.
I know.
December 7th, it's a Friday.
That's a teacher getter. We used to just wait for that to come.
You may serve it at all the schools?
Yes. Well, the junior highs, they'll be doing it on a different date.
Yeah, they'll do it.
Maybe they'll do
Well, I
it on
think
the
the
12th.
board should get together and go to one specific
Yes.
together.
Please come.
Thank you.
I'll have to tell these tours.
Item 120, review of board bylaws, 9910, terms of office.
Yes, this is, we got all the board bylaws 2 years ago, and somehow this one
Snuggle away.
slipped through the cracks. Yeah, well, because some of the changes are reflected in changes that have taken place for a while, so if you look at the actual text.
Yeah.
We've got the number of items, the number of board members, we had continued to be elected for odd number of years, and that one was a couple of years ago. So it updates that language, it updates to a language, we had to go around the date, that someone elected position becomes valid from the first to the second Friday in December.
Oh, yeah.
And it references references down at the bottom, that education, election code 1040.4, that consolidation. So this is, presented in the first reading, we'll bring back to the December meeting.
Last adopted 30 years ago, what?
Something like that.
Well, we did, we had an update.
1986.
We
Where's
took
the
it back in
update?
60, but I think we may have missed the.
There's a couple of things we
Maybe
missed
those
on
things
it,
were-
yeah.
I acknowledge receipt of the board bylaw changes presented in item 120 dated November 14, 2018, and direct staff to bring the item back for approval at the next board meeting. Item 220, review of AR 5141-.32, health screening for school.
Yeah, this is our AR dealing with health screenings for school entry, so Dr. Zimmerman, thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Zimmerman.
Good evening. Good evening, board. This is a new administrative regulation. We do not have a board policy that comes with it. Usually we have a board policy that follows. This is new from CSBA, but this is actually things that we already do. So it's basically just putting it in writing that we're wanting to do this, but we already do these things, and I'll explain how we do it.
So where's it been since we've always done it?
We've just been doing these procedures. We've already had them as part of our policies for health screening for school entry. We've just done it.
Just need more policy,
Mhm.
okay.
Or administrative regulations, yes. So, parents and guards, so the way that it's gonna work is a bit, you'll see after I go through all these slides, it is, the kids are gonna go to school, they're not gonna be withheld one way or another. We're gonna keep them in even if they don't get this, but we are gonna try to get, the oral health screening done for all of our students, and I'm gonna explain how we're gonna do that. So the parent guardians of students that are entering kindergarten or first grade for the first time need to provide certification of the health screening within 18 months prior to the entry in first grade or within 90 days thereafter. We'll notify the parents of the requirements to obtain the health screening, and we do this in the kindergarten package. So every year, Olivia sends something out, and we're gonna review it with office managers of what needs to be done for kindergarten registration, all the forms that need to be in the packet, and one of these, all the items that we're gonna talk about tonight are in that packet. We also notify parents of this in our annual notification to parents and guardians as well. So this information is in there for all families as well. So, certification form also includes immunization requirements that they need prior to kindergarten, so that's in here as well. And if parents do not want to do this, they can submit a waiver, which is also in the first, the packet, the kindergarten registration packet. Within the first 90 days, superintendent or designee can contact the parents of students who have not provided the certification form or waiver, and we'll do this through Connect Ed. So we'll make sure and we'll document that we've done it. So we'll make contact through them. We can also have the health assistants make a personalized phone call as well and let them know that, please make sure we have this information submitted. We can exclude for 5 days on the 91st day if the consent or waiver is not submitted, but we can exempt them from exclusion when parents have been contacted. So if we do make a contact before day 90, and the parent refuses to provide certification or waiver, they're not going to be withheld from school. I know, it's kind of redundant, but. So, and before May 31st of the school year, parents and guardians of any kindergarten student or first grade student that haven't been enrolled will certify that they've received either the health assessment or they'll get the waiver form. They can be excused from the oral health assessment if they indicate, it's on the form, so they just check the box. It was a financial burden, they have lack of access to a licensed dentist, or they did not consent to the assessment. And again, if they don't return the certification form or the waiver, they don't have to be excluded. And by July 1st, the superintendent's designee, this is or designee, which is actually right now it's Irene Mao, and she sends in the oral health assessment reports to the county education office it will be Jennifer Ellsworth when she assumes the position. So some of these responsibilities are going to flow off of Irene Now's plate onto Jennifer Ellsworth. So she'll be doing the report that Irene does, and she will be sending this information to the county education office.
Brian,
Yes.
remind me, I know the law changed a couple of years ago, and I do believe we already changed the board policy regarding immunizations.
Yes. So the new one that we're coming up with is a varicella that's going to be added. So that's going to be a new one added to the list of immunizations that students need. So like kindergarten and seventh grade, the bridge years. The letter has already started going out this year to tell parents about that you know, when you register your kids, you need to have these things coming, these immunizations need to be done. So letters have already gone out to the health office. They're already working on it for next year. And the other part is we have our family outreach advocates who are also involved when it comes to immunizations, because the last thing we want is these kids to miss school on the first day. So if, you know, the health office, if we need to connect it, or, I'm sorry, connect, that's old school. Parent Square, you know, health office is calling, and then if we get the ones that, you know, we've exhausted all numbers on the emergency card, we can't get a hold of them, then we send out our family outreach advocates, and we get them involved, and get them into the clinics, get them the immunizations, get them appointments to make sure that they're in school on the first day.
Did we get, any folks who were, getting the doctor's letter for immunizations this year?
I think there's one.
I mean, just because I know that the whole, that changed, that's now an acceptable thing, and there are places where they were getting larger numbers of doctors saying that.
Very, very many. Yeah, they're very few. I mean, I'd say like maybe two or three, but they all get submitted to the county health, and then the county health looks at it and they look for patterns and things like that. So, but it has to say why it's a medically valid reason for the student not to receive. So the kid has to have some kind of condition for them not to be able to receive those immunizations. Any questions?
I acknowledge receipt of the proposed administrative regulations, AR 5141.32, health screening or full entry, presented by the 220 dated November 14th, 2018, and request administration to bring this item back to consent at the next regular board meeting. Item 330, discussion of board policies and administrative regulations. Producer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lar. Does everybody have the copy of the amended item?
Yeah, we're just getting,
Okay. My apologies.
We did it.
As I was kind of setting myself for tonight's meeting, to look back through this for, I don't know how many times I've read through it, but for a multiple of times, I saw that I had left an artifact of the original board policy in here. And thank you to Kristen and to Peggy for working together to get this amended item to you. And no administrative regulation, which is an interesting way to handle board policy, especially if you're dealing with claims against the district. Containing everything in board policy and have nothing about how to administer it, it can put a hitch in your works. But what happens for the most part in this item, in this revision, is portions of the board policy get set into the brand new administrative regulation. And so I'll share with you just really quickly on the first page of the board bylaw. The introduction is new, where it talks about the governing board desires to conduct business and operations in a manner that minimizes risk. It has a nice opening statement for why the policy is in place. And the next paragraph, that's all new. And then the roster of public agencies, that looks like it's new because it's underlined, but it actually is being moved from the back end of the board policy up to the front end. And this is something where there's a roster of public agencies, the Secretary of State's office, that municipalities and government agencies are supposed to list board members, board presidents, etc., folks who need to be served if the district receives a claim. And so coming here in December, when we address the roles that the board will take, and if we have a new president, then maybe we need to send notification, however that works, to the Secretary of State to let them know what the new board roster is, so that folks who want to make legal contact about claims with the district and who is supposed to receive those claims. Now, I think in the past, we may have actually been excluded from that list unintentionally, and we actually have received claims where part of their complaint was we didn't have anyone at that roster, on that roster. So I don't think it's a list that's looked at very often, but it is required, and so we're gonna shore up that practice. So much of what remains in the board policy in front of you see is struck through, because it is getting moved and revised to be included in the administrative regulation. So if you switch back to the administrative regulation, most of what is in here is clarified language. Similar language, but clarified language. So it addresses timelines, it addresses the receipt of claims, and when, if you have an incident, how many days between that incident and the receipt of that claim are allowed. It has provisions for extending that time with a late claim, and the board has experience with that. And then it takes on new law and takes on some amendments related to recent court cases. And what was really interesting about this policy is Kristen and I were trying to work on putting it together, as we had received paper from the superintendent's office for the revisions through October the 18th related to this board policy. But online, on Gannett, where we usually go to do our work, their revision online was July of 2018. So I don't know how exactly that happens that way, but we went around in circles a few times trying to make sure we had the most recent revisions up to you for your consideration tonight. But that's what we have as the policy through October of 2018. So one of the things that's new is where it talks about the review of the contents of the claim at the bottom of the AR and starting on the top of the second page. It has 7 bullets that the district will review to make sure that claim is complete, which is good, right? It's a transparent way to conduct business. You don't necessarily need to create a roadmap for people to file claims against the district, but this describes what you'll need, and it saves everyone time and frustration. And there, at the very end, the administrative regulation, additional clarity is added about the actions that can be taken on those claims. So you have, for example, if the board finds that the claim is not proper, a proper charge against the district, that claim shall be rejected. If the board finds the claim is a proper charge against the district and is for an amount justly due, the claim shall be allowed. And so those are things that never existed in our old bylaw because we didn't have an administrative regulation. Now it's spelled out so that those steps are prescribed in the documents that kind of govern the district. As you know, we do work with attorneys and they provide us advice. We do work with CIS and they provide us advice. Their advice is going to comply with these requirements as well. Whether or not they're written out this specifically, but we'll continue that practice of working with those advisors as we process claims. But it will be a lot clearer if anyone looks at these administrative regulations, why we are acting the way we do, because it will be prescribed in writing and in detail.
I acknowledge discussion of the board policy and administrative regulation 3220, claims and actions against the district is presented in item 330 dated November 4th, 2018. And return the item for board approval at the next regular
to comment on the Veterans Day ceremony that was held at Sanchez. I think that was the second time that I've been able to attend, and it's always a very moving and well-planned event. And the kids are appropriately responsive and, sing their songs and do their things, and it's very inspirational. And I think Mr. Segura mentioned Altrusa, Golden Valley. Our trees are ready. We are hosting the Chamber of Commerce reception tomorrow evening from 5:30 to 7:30. We have quite a number of schools who have participated, including SMEA with their Harry Potter tree, which is very nice. You're into Harry Potter?
It's very hairy.
It's very hairy. Yes, it is. We have some really, the trees are always seem to be really nice, but this year, I must say, they really are exceptional. They're overflowing. They really are, so.
I had to move the tree the other way.
I know.
Where are they, Linda?
They're upstairs on the second floor of the mall where the old skateboard shop used to be. So it's kind of at the top of the escalator and down to the left. We open officially November 23rd, and we are the only Altrusa group that invites students to have field trips. And we will be having about 1,000 students come through, and every one of them, they don't take it with them that day because that's a little cumbersome, but someone whom will remain nameless delivers books to the schools where the students are coming from. So I need a couple of readers Thursdays, and I can't ask you, Mr. Ontiveros, because we'll be going to the CSBA conference. That's one of the days.
I was worried about forgetting my glasses this year.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I'm actually really very excited. The trees are just so spectacular.
Oliver? All righty then. 2 days. We talked intermittently about DLI lately in our discussions about LCAP and things like that, and so and it's been a while since we've had those guys give us kind of an update on how that's going, how hiring for the upcoming grades is going, and just any other pertinent facts. And I think, in the context of LCAP, it's also something we talked about, and maybe is it something we want to do at other sites and some of that stuff. So I mean, just that would help us understand it, where we're at with that. The other thing that I wanted to see if maybe Dr. Zimmerman might be able to talk about this is that we've talked about, and people have asked a question about concussions, and I've had teachers actually tell me that they've seen more concussions this year already than they've seen in the past on sites. And so I don't know what their interpretation of a concussion is, obviously. But what I would like to continue to look into is having the personnel and the staff that are on site be trained in recognizing and treating or dealing with concussions, so that that's not something that the teachers have to kind of try to interpret. So I don't know if that's something that maybe we have a discussion item on, and I'd be happy to participate in that if Dr. Zimmerman would like me to, or with the staff that might be involved with that. But that's something that I feel like is pretty important and impactful. So those are some of the things I've been thinking about lately. I haven't gone to anything.
it was even, as Mark mentioned, we brought in Michelle to really organize some of those health services. So it's time for discussion. And I don't know why I didn't do that before.
Yeah, I know. I did participate with the El Camino Jogathon fundraising. A lot of runs going on over there. And right now, I know the people up north with the fires are really looking for some help. Fortunately / unfortunately, we went up for a family gathering. My brother lives in the Sacramento area. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, what the am I doing? Because you're driving right into a cloud. But it was pretty bad, pretty bad. Then I came back and saw all the remnants from down south. A lot of health issues and a lot of reestablishments of their
How many
lives.
degrees of separation? I mean, everybody knows somebody.
Man, it's crazy, absolutely crazy, like they want to mention.
Yeah, it was bad even in Berkeley, my son said.
Oh, it's
really bad.
I started getting the actual cloud of dust or smoke in Hollister. In Hollister. So,
Well, we had a couple of days here where I thought it was pretty smoky coming from the south.
yeah, unbelievable.
I was over in Eastern Sierra over the weekend. Saturday, the smoke made it over.
Wow. Well, now there's a fire over there.
Wow. There was a fire too in Santa Cruz. So, yeah, if you want anything, they sure can use everything, so.
Yeah, it was a little. Just funny that you mentioned the DLI update, John, because I met with Richard Reese last week, and he and Victor Restrepo, one of the parents, on the action team. Actually sent him down to Ontario Montclair. They just visited Central Language Academy, which is a dual language program that we started right as I was leaving Ontario, which is about 10 years ago. It started as K2, was going to K8. And so the principal there is still there. And so they down and met with them and talked about, how did they grow over that time? Because, Patty's done a really good job of identifying the next year's core teachers. That as you grow up grade level, you're talking about, there's some sophistication to language that needs to be incorporated in when we teach it at the higher grade levels, more complex content. So, we're going to meet the week after Thanksgiving, we meet with that leadership group on that side. And just on a larger context, we still maintain Dr. Pagan to work not only with the Adventist group, but work with the district group here on what those next phases might look like. Trying to separate a little bit from Adventist. They really got their school to run. They can't be Adventist and organizing dual language.
But the DLI task force is meeting tomorrow evening.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe Rebecca was meeting with Carlos today in preparation.
Are you on that one?
I have been, unfortunately, the meeting notices haven't come until about a week before, and if I have them on my calendar, I'll reschedule things or not make a commitment. So I have the remainder of the dates, so I will be attending
Tomorrow, yeah.
There's also the change of mixer.
Yeah, we're gonna be at that tomorrow.
So you know what the nice thing is about the new website is you go to the calendar and you really press more. It shows you everything that goes on in every day. So now I know everything I missed.
Oh, great.
Because when you look at it, we have so many things going on.
Ignorance is bliss.
Well, I would say ignorance is bliss. I'm the happiest man on the face of the earth. I want to recognize Brian Zimmerman, as past president of our local AXA chapter. Because I think he was the one who really got this idea started. We had a breakfast this morning recognizing our community partners, law enforcement, and community agencies. And Shannon Sievers from YMCA. And we were talking about the so many programs that they're offering to schools and community throughout the region. Trying to broaden that reach that, none of us can see the our arms wrapped around the needs that we all lay farmers. Maybe we can close to getting everything circled in. And then, other than that, I just want to thank you and congratulate Mrs. Fuller and Mr. Lara for the election results last week. I slept like a baby Tuesday night after I saw the initial returns. And I did wake up at 3 o'clock just to verify. Congratulations, look forward to it.
Thank you. I just have one final thing for you, Jose, and, when we were discussing what you're going to be working on, I just want to say regarding CNI, the action teams, and COT, having been a participant in an action team and being an action team chair and part of that process, at all of the years that I was in the classroom, more than 20, and having gone through 3 different language arts adoptions and being part of coming to the board with it, I just cannot say enough about the importance of that process, because it does truly allow teachers to have a voice in the materials that we adopt. And I just am a firm believer that, what we adopt may not be perfect for everybody, but when you have input from teachers at every grade level, and you come together and you use a rubric and have the conversations about teacher needs, student needs, future, and the practicality of everything, you get, the best of what's out there. So I really would like to see that rebuilt so that there is a lot more teacher participation. It is truly valuable. And because literacy and reading were always, kind of my thing, I would just tell people, hey, if you want to have a voice in this, you participate. And if you don't, then you can't bitch. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for that. And just so you know, part of the process is going to really be bringing it back to you all, because part of rebuilding is also taking a look at the board policies that govern it. And there's going to have to be some changes there. So I expect to have this body involved in that process, revamping our bylaws that the board policies, so we create new bylaws that are more inclusive and not so restrictive, and then taking that framework and then building from that.
When you're ready to take a look at that, you give me a call.
All right, thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. With that, meeting adjourned.